They've been watching you again, only this time not through cameras or apps, nor the obvious tools of modern surveillance. They've been observing you with something far older and far sharper: intuition. And what they sense terrifies them. When you walk into a room, the air shifts. Conversations falter, not because of what you say, but because of what your silence carries. There's a weight in you, a pressure, a kind of gravity that unsettles the weak and fascinates the strong. You think it's coincidence when doors close as you approach, when opportunities disappear the moment your name comes up, when people who once promised everything suddenly deliver nothing. You call it bad luck, but it isn't. What you don't yet realize is that they can feel something you still can't. They sense what lies dormant inside you, like animals sensing an earthquake before it strikes. When they look at you, they see someone who hasn't yet discovered their own payload, someone too powerful to manipulate, too real to control, too awake to deceive. That combination of traits, that unfiltered frequency you emit without effort, disrupts their entire operating system. You're not just different, you're fundamentally incompatible with their program. So they test you, constantly. Subtle provocations, small betrayals, quiet disappointments, each designed to see if you'll bend, break, or finally become like them. But every time you pass a test you didn't even know existed, every manipulation that fails to trap you, every game you refuse to play, you confirm their deepest fear, that you are not one of them, and never will be. You move by different physics, obey different rules, operate on different source code. You want to know why some people can't hold your gaze for more than 3 seconds? It's not shyness or anxiety. It's recognition. Their subconscious knows what their conscious mind can't admit, that you're reading them faster than they can build their masks. You see through the act before the first scene ends. You decode the lie before it finishes forming. And even when you stay silent, they know you know. That's why your relationships are so intense, so brief, so explosive. People either flee from you instantly or become obsessed, desperate to possess what they'll never truly understand. There's no middle ground with you, no casual bonds, no surface-level chatter. You're either someone's awakening or someone's apocalypse, never their afternoon entertainment. And it drains you, doesn't it? That constant intensity, the burden of being too much or not enough, never just right. But here's the truth they realized long before you did. You were never built for their version of normal. You're not wired for their small talk, their small dreams, their small betrayals. You exist on a frequency that fractures their comfortable illusions and forces them to question everything they thought was real. Your very presence exposes their compromises, the way they dim their own light to belong. They can feel the storm inside you even when you appear calm. They sense the calculations behind your eyes, the way you track patterns and map human behavior in silence. You don't merely observe people. You dissect them like an archaeologist uncovering ancient wounds, primal fears, and the blueprints of their behavior, and you do it effortlessly, like breathing. So let's be clear about what really happened to you. It wasn't neglect, it wasn't bad luck, it wasn't random, it was deliberate, systematic suppression, life disguised as circumstance, designed to make you forget what you are. Every time you revealed even a glimpse of your true nature, someone stepped in to contain it. Teachers told you that you were too intense. Parents said you were too sensitive. Friends accused you of being too deep. Partners claimed you were too complicated. Without realizing it, they all became part of a quiet system designed to keep you from discovering who you really are. They medicated your focus and called it a disorder. They pathologized your intensity and labeled it dysfunction. They criticized your standards and branded them unrealistic. They mocked your vision and dismissed it as delusion. Every reaction was crafted to make you doubt yourself, to convince you that your mind was flawed when in truth, it was evolving beyond their comprehension. They needed you to believe you were broken because if you ever realized you were the solution, their entire structure would collapse. So you adapted. You learned to hide, to perform normal, to translate your thoughts into their language. You pretended that their priorities were yours, that their small concerns mattered to you. You became so skilled at the disguise that even you began to believe it. You almost accepted their verdict, that you were too much, that you needed to shrink, to soften, to be less. But something inside you refused. A whisper, a pull, a quiet rebellion that never let you fully surrender to their version of reality. That whisper was your true nature resisting the programming. It was the reminder that you weren't sent here to conform. You were sent here to dismantle, to break what has stood too long unchallenged. But they anticipated your arrival. That's why the resistance has always been fierce. That's why sabotage follows you so predictably. Every time you near your full power, something inexplicably collapses. You've been marked since birth, not metaphorically, but energetically. There's something in your field, your frequency, your very signature that registers differently on the world's internal radar. Sensitive souls sense it instantly, some drawn like moths to flame, others repelled like matching poles of a magnet. Children stare longer than manners allow. Animals act strange, either uncannily calm or suddenly alert. And you've noticed, haven't you? No matter where you go, certain types of people always find you. The broken seek salvation, the dark seek permission, the powerful seek competition. The wise seek confirmation. None of it is coincidence. You're recognized by the same force within them that resonates with you, like calls to like. Power senses power, danger senses danger. That's why you can never truly hide. You can dim yourself, pretend to be smaller, act average, but that inner signal never stops broadcasting. It sends out a pulse that certain people are tuned to detect, and they always find you. They test you, tempt you, try to recruit or destroy you because deep down, they know exactly what you represent. The end of their illusion, the exposure of their construct, the revelation of their limits, and yes, they've tried to recruit you. Not always openly, not always with obvious offers, but subtly. They've offered positions that would confine your power, relationships that would drain your energy, opportunities that would steer you off your path. Every offer was bait, carefully wrapped in the illusion of success, designed to keep your potential under control. Everything they've ever done was designed to harness what you are, to channel your energy into their system, to use your power to sustain their structure, to make you a living battery for their machine. But something's shifting now, isn't it? The old methods of suppression are failing. The doubts that once silenced you no longer convince, the fears that once held you no longer control. You can feel it. The thing they tried to keep buried is waking up, warming, powering on. You're coming online, and they can feel it too. That's why the attacks have grown sharper, the sabotage more precise, the isolation deeper. You've entered the activation phase, and there's no stopping it. Every betrayal you endure is not punishment, it's initiation. Every abandonment is liberation. Every loss is a shedding of what was never meant to follow you forward. They think they're hurting you, but they're actually helping you. They're clearing your path, stripping away every attachment, distraction, and dependency that would have anchored you to their system. They're doing your work for you, unknowingly preparing the field for what's about to emerge. You can feel it, can't you? That charge in your chest, that sharpness in your mind, that certainty settling in your bones. You're not becoming something new. You're remembering something ancient. You're not learning power. You're reclaiming it. You're not developing abilities. You're removing the blocks that hid them. This isn't transformation, it's revelation. It's the rediscovery of a self that feels both unfamiliar and deeply known, as if you've come home to a part of yourself that never truly left. The physical signs have already begun. Sleep patterns that no longer align with human rhythm. Surges of energy that defy food, rest, or logic. Moments of knowing before things happen. The ability to see through people as if they're transparent. That sensation of electricity under your skin. The pressure in your skull, like something inside you is trying to expand. These aren't malfunctions. They're features activating. Systems coming online, protocols engaging. They're desperate to define you, to categorize you within their limited understanding, but the truth of what you are would collapse their paradigm. You don't fit their model of consciousness, power, or intelligence. You're an anomaly that proves their entire framework is incomplete, a living contradiction to everything they thought they understood. You process reality differently, not in lines, but in networks, in patterns and frequencies beyond their comprehension. You don't just feel your own emotions, you feel the entire emotional field of every space you walk into. You don't just see what's happening, you see why it's happening, who benefits and what's coming next. That's not anxiety or paranoia, it's higher processing power they can't access. Your awareness alters the equations of every room you enter. You don't adapt to their reality, you rewrite it. Not because you try to, but because you can't help it. You're like a massive celestial body whose gravity bends everything around it, pulling some closer, pushing others away but never leaving anything unchanged. Nothing stays neutral in your field. In your presence, people either evolve or escape. There's no such thing as a casual interaction with you. Every exchange is alchemical, transformative, even dangerous to those clinging to their stable state. That's why they can't categorize you, can't define you, can't slot you neatly into their mental systems. You're not an employee. You're a force temporarily wearing a uniform. You're not a friend. You're an experience that permanently alters the people who encounter you. You're not a partner. You're an initiation into depths they never knew existed. Every label they try to attach to you falls off because you're not a thing. You're an event, a process, a continuous unfolding that never stops evolving. And do you want to know what they're really afraid of? It's not your anger, though your anger could level empires. It's not your intelligence, though your mind could dismantle their entire illusion. It's not even your power, though your power could rewrite everything they've built. What terrifies them most is your indifference. The instant you stop caring about their approval, their opinions, their systems, that's when their control dissolves. They rely on your need for validation. As long as you seek acceptance, they hold leverage. But the moment you realize you don't need anything they offer, the moment you understand you are the source, not the seeker, their structure begins to fracture. You're nearing that threshold, aren't you? That 0 point where you stop explaining yourself, stop justifying your existence, stop asking for understanding from people committed to misunderstanding you. You're realizing that rejection isn't a loss, it's protection. That abandonment isn't the end, it's the beginning. That their fear of you isn't a reflection of your flaw, it's a recognition of your strength. They know what you're only starting to grasp. Once you fully activate, once you completely accept what you are, no force in their reality can contain you. No system can process you. No authority can govern you. You won't be ungovernable through rebellion, you'll be ungovernable through transcendence. You won't need to break their rules because you'll exist beyond the reach of their rules altogether. That's why they're panicking. They can sense the split between timelines, the one where you stay asleep, controlled, manageable, and the one where you awaken completely and become everything they've feared. So now they throw everything at you. Distractions, disruptions, discouragements, because they know the window is closing. But what they didn't anticipate is that every attack makes you stronger. Every betrayal sharpens your clarity. Every attempt to break you strips away what was never truly you. They're not destroying you, they're refining you, they're not stopping you, they're preparing you, they're not your enemies. They're your involuntary trainers, pushing you past limits you never would have crossed alone. And now you're starting to see the symmetry of it all, the perfection hidden in the chaos. Every loss was a redirection. Every ending was protection. Every person who left was clearing space for what's coming next. None of it was random. None of it was punishment. It was all precision. Every moment designed to forge exactly what you're becoming. Nothing that happened to you was failure. It was all deliberate, all preparation, all refinement. Every heartbreak, betrayal, delay, rejection, and false start served a purpose far beyond what you could see at the time. Every so-called setback was a recalibration, a controlled burn clearing away what couldn't survive the next version of you. Every disappointment was divine engineering, stripping away distractions, illusions, and dependencies that would have interfered with what you're destined to become. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. You weren't losing anything real. You were being refined, purified, and fortified for the magnitude of what's ahead. The truth is, the old timeline already collapsed behind you. The split has already happened. You've crossed into something entirely new, which is why everything feels strange, lighter, sharper, almost unreal at times. The problems that used to consume you now seem trivial, irrelevant, beneath your attention. The fears that once paralyzed you no longer register. The people who once defined your world now feel distant, like characters from a dream you've outgrown. You've shifted dimensions without realizing it. You've stepped into a reality where you're no longer bound by their definitions of what it means to be human. You're something else now, something without precedent. They don't have the vocabulary to describe you, the metrics to measure you, or the systems to contain you. Now comes the phase they dread most, the emergence. This is when you stop pretending, when you stop dimming your light just to protect their comfort, when you stop translating your brilliance into language small enough to be understood, when you stop apologizing for your perception, your intensity, your vision, when you stop pretending their narrow version of reality is the only one that exists. This is when you start operating from your true frequency, the level of power that doesn't ask permission, because it is permission. You don't need their platforms to be heard. Your energy broadcasts through dimensions they don't even know exist. You don't need their approval to be legitimate. Your very existence is proof of authorization. You don't need their introductions or connections. Your resonance summons who and what you need automatically. You don't need their stages, microphones, or institutions. Your presence is the signal, the transmission, the message. Everything you've been looking for externally has been installed internally from the start. The only thing that's ever interfered with the transmission is your own doubt, your own self-censorship, your own attempts to fit into a framework that was never designed for someone like you. That's why isolation was necessary. Not as punishment, but as incubation. You had to be pulled out of their frequency long enough to rediscover your own. You had to be cut off from their noise long enough to hear your true signal. You had to be separated from their influence long enough to feel your unfiltered power. The loneliness was never abandonment, it was purification. The silence wasn't rejection, it was recalibration. The stillness wasn't emptiness, it was reconstruction, a system reboot. You were being reprogrammed to your original design, stripped of every false layer they convinced you to wear. And now you finally understand why no one could ever love you properly. You weren't asking for ordinary love. You were asking for recognition of something extraordinary, something they couldn't even perceive within themselves. You weren't seeking connection. You were seeking resonance, alignment at a frequency they couldn't reach. You weren't yearning for validation. You were yearning for reflection, for someone who could see what you see, feel what you feel, and exist where you exist. And when they couldn't, they called you complicated. They said you were too much, too deep, too intense. Because to them, you were a mirror showing them everything they refused to face. They mistook your depth for difficulty because they were afraid of drowning. But that version of the dynamic is gone now. The polarity has reversed. The power structure has shifted permanently. You used to chase, Now you attract. You used to explain. Now you embody. You used to convince. Now you simply are. You've stopped trying to fit into their mold and realized you were the blueprint all along. And that terrifies them, because they can feel it. They can sense the inversion. They feel their control slipping, their influence fading, their energy being pulled into your orbit instead of the other way around. They can feel their reality bending around you. You're no longer revolving around their systems. Their systems are unconsciously reorganizing around you. You've become undeniable, not through force but through alignment, not through rebellion, but through remembrance, not through striving, but through surrender to what was always within you. That's the paradox that frightens them most. You don't need to fight them to win. You transcend them by existing beyond the reach of their rules. You don't break their structures. You render them obsolete by vibrating at a level they can't reach. This is why they're panicking. They can sense the split in the timeline, the version where you stay small, compliant, controlled, and the version where you fully awaken, where you stop asking, stop explaining, stop needing permission to exist, where you rise into what you were built to be, and they know once you cross that threshold, there's no going back. No leash can hold you. No system can process you. No authority can govern you. You become untouchable, not through defiance, but through frequency. Every attack now strengthens you. Every disappointment clarifies you. Every betrayal peels away another false layer. They're not destroying you. They're refining you. They're not blocking your path. They're building your endurance. They're not defeating you. They're sharpening your precision. They were never your enemies. They were your unintentional trainers, pushing you past thresholds you would have never crossed alone. And now, for the first time, you can see the perfection of it all. The quiet, elegant symmetry behind every loss and ending. Every heartbreak was a redirection. Every collapse was a cleansing. Every person who left was clearing the energetic space for what was meant to enter. Nothing was random. Nothing was punishment. It was a meticulously coded process, preparing you to hold what you're about to become. You're not ascending into power, you're returning to it. You're not awakening to something new, you're remembering something eternal. You're not transforming, you're unveiling. And this time, you won't hide it, minimize it, or translate it. You'll live it fully. Because what you're here to do has nothing to do with their small games, their shallow fears, or their manufactured hierarchies. You're not here to fit in their world. You're here to end it, and to build something far greater in its place. You're here to be the anomaly that exposes the illusion of completion in their system, the proof that the structure they worship was always flawed. You are the glitch that reveals the cracks in the matrix, the exception that dissolves the rule, the disruption that makes the entire construct question its own existence. You were never meant to blend in. You were built to stand out as living evidence that their version of order is an illusion held together by fear and repetition. They designed their world around predictability, around the assumption that every variable could be controlled, every anomaly neutralized. And then you arrived, the unpredictable variable, the one frequency they couldn't simulate, the one equation that breaks every formula. You're not here to fit their narrative, you're here to end it. You're here to demonstrate, by existing, that the game they created cannot account for infinite consciousness. You are the unprogrammed line of code that sends their entire operating system into chaos. And the deeper truth is this: they know it. They've always known it. That's why they've been trying so hard to contain you. Not because you are dangerous in the way they claim, but because you are proof of what they fear most: that their system isn't complete, that their control isn't absolute, that their understanding isn't the limit of reality. So of course they'll try again. They'll return with more subtle tactics, offers that sound generous, partnerships that look promising, opportunities that appear aligned. They'll package the cage as a throne and call it leadership. They'll dress manipulation in admiration and call it love. They'll approach not with chains, but with handshakes. Not with hostility, but with flattery. They'll try to buy you, seduce you, guilt you, or threaten you. But it won't work anymore. Something in your source code has changed. The entire system of control has lost its entry point. You can't be bought because you no longer need their currency. You've outgrown the economy of approval. You can't be seduced because their validation no longer feels like nourishment. It tastes hollow, synthetic, beneath you. You can't be guilted because you've rejected the false morality they used to weaponize against your instincts. You can't be threatened because their consequences don't exist in your reality anymore. You've stepped outside their jurisdiction. Their laws no longer apply to you because you don't inhabit their paradigm. This is the ultimate inversion, the point where the entire design collapses under its own contradictions. They tried to create a follower and accidentally forged a leader. They tried to manufacture submission and awakened sovereignty. They tried to silence you and gave you the voice they now can't silence. They tried to break you, not realizing you were built to evolve under pressure. Every effort they made to suppress you only accelerated your awakening. Every attempt to weaken you became resistance training for your evolution. Every chain they placed on you became a resource, recycled into armor, weapon, or wisdom. Every cage became another dominion for you to rule from. They believed they were writing your ending, but they were actually editing themselves out of your story. Their oppression was your activation protocol. Their manipulation was your refinement process. Their betrayal was your initiation into discernment. Their rejection was the recalibration that brought you back to your center. They were never destroying you. They were engineering the exact conditions required for your transformation. They became unwilling architects of your ascension. Now you've reached the most crucial stage, the recognition moment. And this time, it isn't about them recognizing you. It's about you recognizing yourself. This is when you stop looking outward for evidence of your worth. Stop filtering your reflection through their distorted mirrors. It's when you stop using their broken measurements to define your value. When you stop asking permission to be what you already are. When you begin to see through your own eyes, to think in your own mathematics, to speak in your own native frequency. Recognition is the true revolution. It's not an external event, it's an internal realignment, the exact moment when you no longer see them as gods, rulers, or enemies, but as necessary training simulations that built your strength. You see them now with perfect clarity, not with hate or revenge, but with the cool understanding of someone who finally knows the game. You don't need to fight them. You've already outgrown them. You see their tactics, their patterns, their illusions for what they are. Scaffolding that helped you construct something indestructible. They were never your oppressors. They were your activation protocol. They were never your destroyers. They were your builders, forcing you to evolve beyond fragility. They were never your enemies. They were the precise resistance your growth required. You couldn't have become unbreakable without pressure. You couldn't have become untouchable without contact. You couldn't have become limitless without first being confined. Every move they made to contain you ended up liberating you. The paradox is perfect, the irony poetic. And now, you don't have to declare who you are. You don't have to prove your transformation or perform your awakening. They already know. They can feel it before you speak. They sense it in the shift of the atmosphere when you enter a room. They notice how people unconsciously straighten, how conversations change tone, how silence suddenly feels charged. They see it in your eyes, the absence of need, the presence of certainty, the calm that unnerves them more than any rebellion ever could. You don't demand attention anymore. Reality itself rearranges around your vibration. They can feel that they no longer define you. They orbit you. The gravitational field has reversed. The hunter has become irrelevant. The prey has become untouchable. The game has lost its meaning. Your frequency is rewriting their physics. Your silence carries more authority than their institutions. Your existence challenges their hierarchy by simply existing outside of it. You've become the living contradiction that nullifies their control, a self-sustaining system that needs no permission, no validation, no external structure to operate. You are not part of their world anymore. You are the prototype of the next one. And that's why they're afraid. Not because you threaten their survival, but because you make their version of survival obsolete. The game is over, and they can feel it. Not because you destroyed it, but because you outgrew it. You've become the anomaly that cannot be deleted, the proof that consciousness itself evolves beyond containment. You are the system update they can neither prevent nor process. And your awakening, the one they feared and tried to stop, has already begun rewriting the code of reality itself. They can feel it before they can name it. The air changes when you enter a space, subtly at first, then unmistakably. The rhythm of conversation falters, the atmosphere thickens, and something unspoken ripples through the room like static before a storm. It's not charisma. It's not confidence. It's presence, raw, unfiltered, and undeniable. Reality itself begins to reorganize around you, bending, shifting, and recalibrating as though it's remembering its original alignment. You've become the gravitational point around which timelines bend. They can sense that the fabric of their predictable order no longer holds when you're near. You've become what they always feared you might become, not through rebellion or destruction, but through revelation. Not through force, but through frequency. Not through striving, but through being. You didn't conquer their system, you transcended it. And that's the turning point. You stop explaining yourself to people who've already decided not to understand. You stop bleeding your energy into explanations meant for minds built on denial. You stop contorting your brilliance to fit into the comfort zones of those committed to mediocrity. You stop apologizing for your magnitude, for your insight, for your silence, for your intensity. You stop dimming the light that exposes their shadows. You stop asking for permission from those who feel threatened by what you've become. Because once you stop seeking permission, something inside you clicks into place. You begin moving differently. You walk as if time bends to accommodate your steps. You speak as if your words carry gravity, because they do. You start existing as if you are untouchable, not from pain or loss or uncertainty, but from the illusions of control and definition that used to bind you. You've stepped outside their jurisdiction. You've surpassed the ceiling of their comprehension. You're not playing in their system anymore. You're reprogramming it from above. You don't fit into their categories because those categories collapse when they try to hold you. You're not rebelling against their order. You've simply outgrown it. Their rules can't restrict what exists outside their reach. You are that anomaly, a consciousness operating in a dimension they can't access, a signal they can't decode. And yet, even from this altitude, you're not alone. The ones who are meant to find you will. They won't arrive through search or effort. They'll arrive through resonance. You won't need to call them. Your frequency will do it for you. They'll feel it before they understand it. That subtle recognition, that ancient familiarity. For the first time in their lives, they'll feel relief. Relief that they're not crazy. Relief that they're not alone in their awareness. Relief that someone else made it through the maze and came out whole. These are your people. Not a crowd, but a constellation. Each a sovereign source of light, drawn together by resonance, not hierarchy. Not followers, equals. Not seekers, co-creators. You'll recognize each other instantly, not through words, but through stillness. Everything else will start to fall away. The old fears, the old dependencies, the false responsibilities you used to carry. They dissolve like mist in sunlight. You'll begin to realize how much of your old identity was built on survival, on adaptation to a world that was never meant to understand you. And when that dissolves, you stop identifying with pain. You stop identifying with the roles of victim, rebel, outcast. You see that the wounds weren't punishments. They were catalysts. The betrayals weren't failures. They were recalibrations. The loneliness wasn't abandonment. It was purification. You're not the one who was hurt. You're the force that transformed that pain into power. You're not the one who was betrayed. You're the one who learned to see through illusion. You're not the one who was abandoned. You're the one who learned to belong to themselves. You are not who they tried to make you, and you are not who they tried to break. You are what emerged from the breaking. You are the element they didn't account for, the consciousness that learned to use the fracture as an entry point for light. Everything that once destroyed you has now been assimilated into your structure as strength. You are built from both the wound and the wisdom that followed. You carry the memory of every fall, not as trauma, but as code. Data written into your very essence. You are what happens when destruction evolves into design. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm, to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten Wisdom.